Yeah, I got to follow that now. So that's my talk. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Actually, they're going to play some more music, so we'll just, the world is one. You and I are one. I want to take a moment before we get into our talk for today to acknowledge what it is that we honor this week, which is Labor Day. And it's more than just a day to have hamburgers and hot dogs and kind of celebrate. It's a day that we remember and honor the labor movement that so many people put literally heart and soul and bodies and sometimes their very lives themselves into so that we could have the ability to work in a relatively safe and relatively respectful environment. And yes, we still have some ways to go, but so much has been created from that. And so in 1897, the United States government declared this a federal holiday. And I just wanted to honor all the giants, the shoulders of the giants upon whom we stand and upon whom we have the privilege today of living in a world, in a culture, in a society, in a country where we do have much greater respect for workers than we had 150 years ago, and greater respect for children as workers and all that. So I just want to take a moment to have you join me in a moment of gratitude and a moment of honoring all of the individuals who worked so hard to bring this about, and all who are still working today to make it even better still. And thank you. So our talk title today, our official talk title today is called Service to the World. And those of you who have been here for a while know that we're working on a theme of creating a world that works for all. And this month we're going to be looking at the theme of service in different aspects of it. Ernest Holmes says service is the keynote to success and implies constructive work. And when he says constructive work, that's not construction work. Okay? You don't have to be a construction worker, but it's work that is constructing something. And we all do work that is constructing something if we're willing to recognize that, right? You know, this kind of ties in with his idea of being a people who are for something and against nothing. So what is my work here to do? You know, we've all seen people who work just to get a paycheck. They just check in, punch in, put in their hours and punch back out again or whatever. But there's also the ability to do the work. You know, when I worked for Amazon.com, as some of you know, for about 4 or 5 years, I was an inventory control manager. And basically my job was to make sure that when somebody clicked on an item, it was in stock, so that you could actually have it, at the time. But there wasn't so much that the company would be in financial trouble for affording it, okay? So we had to kind of strike that balance. And the metaphor that I used was, I'm like sitting at the gates of the heaven of manifestation, making sure that when your prayer comes up for manifestation, that what it is that you want is correlated, is there to instantly be shipped to you and manifested, right? When we pray, we like to have our prayers answered pretty quickly, right? Anybody besides me like now? So I viewed myself as being a person who supported people in having what they wanted as quickly as they could get it. So that's a constructive attitude towards the job, rather than just, I'm just here working, like that. So that's what Ernest Holmes has talked about, which when he says service is the keynote to success, it implies constructive work. Also, loyalty to your work and all concerned in it. And again, we've worked in work where everybody's there for themselves, and we've worked in work or seen work where people are there as a team, as a support for each other and for the customers. You ever walk into a place and the place has the attitude of, this would be a wonderful place to work if it weren't for the customers? Right? And then you've walked into a place where this is a wonderful place to work because of the customers. And one feels much better than the other, right? And so we want to have that constructive and loyalty and that being concerned for all in whatever we do. But I want to reframe this, and I love this song. We talked about this last night. I want to reframe this idea of service to the world and turn it slightly as service as the world. Service as the world. Because the world, as the song that she was saying, is one. You and I aren't separate from it. When I do service to the world, then I feel separate from the world. It's something out there, and I'm doing it to the world, right? And what that can promote is either I know better than everybody else what to do for the world, Or the world is so big and the problems are so immense and I'm just this little guy here and I have no idea what to do, so I'm not going to bother to do anything. That's what happens when I'm in service to the world. I had a great example just this, I believe it was this past week, of service to the world thinking that we know better than the world. In I believe it was South Carolina and Florida, who sprayed to kill off all the mosquitoes that might carry the Zika virus, and inadvertently and unwittingly also killed off most of the honeybee population in the state at the same time. Okay, that's, I think I know what's better. Anybody besides me ever have somebody who knows what's right for you and wants to tell you and wants you to, and all of government and individuals and all sorts of that. And have we ever ourselves, can we admit that we might have done that once or twice to somebody else? And so that doesn't work. But when we have service as the world, when we recognize that I and the world are one, when Jesus said, I'm in the world but not of the world, it's important to recognize we're in the world. Have you noticed? We're in the world. We got these physical forms and bodies. We signed up to play here on this planet at this time. Thank you, all of you. It's great to be here with you. And so we signed up to be in the world while recognizing at the same time we're not completely of the world. And guess what? The world isn't completely of the world either. You ever thought about that? The world, even the planet itself, is God in form. It's more than just the physicality of it. And all those people out there we love to love, and all those people out there we love to hate, are also in but not of the world. All of us are God in form. Okay? And so when we start to recognize that, we're then doing service not to the world, but we're doing service as the world to share from our wholeness. Not to fix something that's broken out here, but to share our wholeness with the world. And when I'm coming from that space, from that heart space of I'm just here to share who I am with the world, we have a different consciousness, and it's a different experience for us, and it's a different experience for the world. If I believe in the neediness or the brokenness of the world, if that's my belief system, then I will continue to maintain and see more and more and more and more neediness and brokenness in the world. If I'm a problem solver, what do I need? I need a problem to solve, right? And so there's that old phrase of if all you have in your hand is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Okay? And so if I'm a problem solver, if I'm believing in the brokenness of the world or the neediness of the world, then I'm here to solve it with whatever I can, or I finally feel beaten and frustrated and I quit, rather than just I see the world and I recognize it as whole. Now you say, but David, there's this stuff happening. Have you noticed? There's stuff happening in the world, right? I've noticed. You've noticed. We all have noticed. We all have a list, don't we? We all have a list of what's wrong with the world. By the way, who else do we have a list about? Ourselves, right? And if we're in a relationship, whether that's a marriage relationship or a parent-child relationship or friends or coworkers, we usually have a list about them. If, our co-musicians, we always, I don't know about that. But we have a list, right? I have a list of what my body should look like. I have a list of what my finances should look like. I have a list of what my house should look like, my relationship should look like, my whole world, my career, all that. We have lists, right? Yeah? Anybody? I'm sorry. Am I the only one? Am I the only one? Okay, I'm not the only one. That's also in that song. We have these lists, and we have these lists of what the world should look like. What if, instead of maintaining the list, we started to say, you know what, the world is whole, perfect, and complete exactly as it is. I may not like it, and yet it is whole, perfect, and complete, because if God is all there is, which is what we teach, if there's one infinite presence, one infinite energy, one pure love, nothing is outside of that. If you're like me, occasionally I've known how things should be. And then as I get a larger perspective, usually a few years later, I look back and say, no, it shouldn't have been that way. It should have been exactly how it was. It should have been exactly how it was. I love Byron Katie talks about that. She said, if it should have been this way, it would have been this way. However it is how it should be. You don't have to like it, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Can I let go of the list that I have and start to pierce through the veil of that list, start to pierce through the belief systems as our reading talked about today, and not be caught up in our belief systems, not be caught up in our story, and see past that, and start to see the God presence everywhere, in everything. It's a challenge because we have so many people who want to tell us, oh, but look at this, right? The news media loves, they make their living on that for the most part, okay? And we have to pierce through this veil and see that. Yogananda has a wonderful saying that says, we need to be lions in control of our consciousness and not be bothered by the frogs of fear. How would it be to walk through your life as a lion in control of your consciousness? I'm not going to be bothered by all the little froggies croaking away. I'm going to instead look and pierce through the veil and live as spirit, seeing nothing but spirit. How would my life change? And how would my perception of the world and how would my being in the world change? What if we all played like that? What if we all played like that? I love how you changed the line of that song, we all join up together. Instead of we hope you'll join us, it's we are all joining up together. If we created that consciousness, that is the consciousness that it takes to create a world that works for all. The world is perfect because it's a perfect expression of law. Ernest Holmes teaches us, and spiritual teachers, for a long time before Ernest Holmes, have taught us that what we put out comes back to us. As you give, so you receive. As a person thinks, that is what they are. And so there are things that have been sown, seeds that have been sown that are coming to harvest now. Just as today we are sowing seeds that will come to harvest later. And some of the seeds have been sown literally hundreds of years ago. Some have been sown decades ago. We have this problem in the Middle East because back at the end of World War II, we decided to plant Israel right in the middle of the Arab countries and didn't kind of negotiate that out in a way that everybody was good with that, right? And so ever since then, there's been a whole lot of strife in the Middle East. Have you noticed? Okay? A seed was sown, wasn't sown well. And so we get to make up for it today. We've sown seeds in our lives. Maybe we sowed them when we were young and they're coming back to harvest today. And so the only thing we can do with that is to say, you know what? I'm going to bring the best consciousness to that situation, that circumstance that I can. Last week we talked about the Thich Nhat Hanh's meditation, the breathing in and breathing out meditation, where if we notice that there was what he calls a knot of consciousness within us, a knot of hurt, a knot of pain, a knot of fear, a knot of anger, we would do this meditation, that we would breathing in, I'm aware that I have manifested fear in my body. Breathing out, I smile towards the fear. What if we took that and applied that to everything in the world? What if we took that and said, I've noticed that as a global body, as I breathe in, I notice that as a global body, we have created hurt in the world. Breathing out, I smile towards the hurt. And I smile towards the hurt not as in I support it, but as in I start to relieve it, I start to love it, I start to dissolve it with my love. See, I've tried the jackhammer method of getting rid of stuff before, or the machete and whack it out method of getting rid of stuff before. Anybody relate to, you've tried to change yourself with the internal machete, the hammer, the jackhammer, whatever it is. I can tell you after 65 years of experience of doing that, it doesn't work well, and it ain't pretty. If I start to love myself as I am, and if I start to love even the things I don't like, I've noticed that they start to dissolve and I start to shift. Louise Hay has this wonderful exercise where she invites people to stand naked in front of the mirror, look at themselves and say, I love you. And it's the hardest thing for many, many people to do. Because when we stand in front of the mirror and look at ourselves and say, I love you, what comes back usually is our list, right? Oh, look at my thighs, look at my belly, look at the, what comes back is our list. Can I move past the list? Can I actually look at myself and say, I love you? Can I look at the world exactly as it is this second, right now, with all the stuff going on, and say, I love you? And will that start to shift things if we can do that? I invite you to play with that. That is being of service as the world. And then I get to just be here and share my own wholeness, perfection, completeness. And by the way, I have to believe that I'm whole, perfect, and complete first, right? If I'm going to share my wholeness, perfection, and completeness, I have to know that I am that also. And yeah, I got this list going over here on the side, but I am not the list. So I love about that reading again. I have a list, but I am not the list. The world has a list, but the world is not the list. Can we shift our focus and start to bring forward that law that says what we put our attention on increases? If I put my attention on the wholeness, the perfection, the completeness of the world, what is going to manifest more? It's going to be more wholeness, perfection, and completeness. So I'm here to express the divine as me. I am here to allow God to express as me. Ralph Waldo Emerson has a wonderful quote that says, "We are inlets and may become outlets for the divine." We are inlets. We already are inlets, right? We're plugged into the divine. We're plugged into an infinite presence we can't unplug. There's no way to get unplugged. We're in it. We're immersed in it. We are it. Breathe that in for a moment. I am immersed in the divine. I am plugged into the divine. But then because I have free choice, I can choose how much of that I want to express and how I want to express it. Can I allow that flow that is flowing into me to come out in pureness, in purity, and just simply express that love that God is, that wisdom that God is, that creativity, the imagination that God is? Can I allow that to express through me without a whole lot of stuff in between? And so we open to that flow. We are a place that sometimes I joke and I say, we're just faucets for God. We're just faucets for God. Can I turn on the faucet? Can I open up the faucet wide and let that God nature that I already am flow through me out into my life and out into the world? Anybody else want to be a faucet for God? Yeah. Okay. Since God is love, then whenever I'm serving, I'm expressing love. Serving is loving. Serving is loving. Serving is allowing my love to express. So I allow that to happen. Emerson also says in his essay of gifts, he says, "When I have attempted to join myself to others by services, it proved an intellectual trick no more. They eat your service like apples and leave you out." Boy, have I experienced that at times, and you probably have too, right? They eat your service like apples and leave you out. But love them, and they feel you and delight in you all the time. As we love each other, as we love the world, and this is one of the projects things I'm working on right now, this is on my list of being more loving, is if we love people, if we love ourselves, if we love others, people feel us, and then they feel our service. We have a practice in this community we call seva. It's a Hindu term. It means selfless service to God. And as I open and practice this seva consciousness, I allow myself to serve with my heart. When I serve without any attachment to the outcome. I don't have an attachment to the outcome. I am just here to simply allow the universe to flow through me. I'm not attached to the outcome of that, because it's not mine to know that outcome. I'm just here to drop a pebble into the pond and let the ripples go where they need to go. I'm not attached to where they need to go. Okay? As I do seva, I'm also not worrying about what others are doing. Hey, that person's going, look at that person over there. They're not pulling their weight. They're not doing their seva. No, that's not about it. It's about me. Am I here to be of service? Can I allow the universe to serve and flow through me without attachment to the outcome, without worrying about what anybody else is doing? I'm just here to be a faucet for God, an outlet for God, an outlet for an expression of spirit, wherever I am. And so then I do it with love. See, when I walk by, if I see a piece of paper on the ground, I pick it up, and I can pick it up and sit there and go, oh, these lousy, sloppy people there, they trashed the place, they didn't, okay, that's not love, right? That's not really being of service. If I pick it up and just say, I'm grateful for the opportunity to help this place retain and show its beauty that it truly is, then I get to just pick it up and I'm being of service. And I'm being of loving service. And I'm not attached. If somebody walks around 5 minutes later and drops another piece of paper on the ground, I'm not attached to that, because I've done what is mine to do. Mine isn't to heal all those people over there to make sure that everybody, puts their paper where it's supposed to be, their trash where it's supposed to be, right? Anybody ever try that? It doesn't work. I'm here to simply give that which is mine to give, and I give it, as we spoke about last week, generously. I allow that flow to move through me generously because I know that I'm whole, perfect, complete, and beautiful exactly as I am. How do I know what is mine to give? First of all, I pay attention. I just pay attention. What needs to be done? I look around me. Where can I serve today? Where can I serve in this moment? What needs to be done? I just pay attention. It's a very simple question, and usually if you listen, ask the question and listen for an answer, you'll notice it pretty much right away. So I just pay attention to what's around me. Where can I serve? And then secondly, I keep my heart open. Because things in the world will try and close our heart, or will hurt us, and actually they can't close our heart, we close our heart to the things of the world. Okay? And so the question is, can I stay in that consciousness of being a lion walking through life without letting the frogs close my heart down? Can I be a lion of love? Can I be a lion expressing this truth, this godness in this world? Because quite frankly, that's the thing that we all need the most. That's what this world needs. Not more wars, not more rules, not more laws. It needs love. And guess what? We're the love. All of us, every person alive is the love. And so can we open up and express that? So this week I want to invite us to do 3 spiritual practices. The first one is to behold the world with love. When I look at the world, I choose love. I don't choose to criticize. I don't choose to haul out the list. I don't choose to beat myself up with a hammer. I just choose love. I choose to be an outlet for Spirit's love as me. I love the metaphor of being a faucet for God. I choose to be a faucet for Spirit. I choose to be a faucet for love this week. Okay, that's the first practice. Secondly is notice and release any judgments that I do have about the world. Being loving towards myself and others. You might play with that exercise from Louise Hay of standing in front of a mirror naked and just saying, I love myself, until I can say that, and that water, if you will, flows clearly through me, that I truly do love myself. And yeah, my thighs are this, my belly is this, and my ears should be, there's a listens upset from the other one, or whatever. I still can do it and be loving towards myself and towards others. Helpful might be to practice the breathing exercise, the Thich Nhat Hanh breathing exercise from last week. As I breathe in, I'm aware that hurt or fear or anger has manifested in my body. As I breathe out, I smile towards that fear or that hurt or that anger. I allow myself to rise above it. I allow myself to recognize that it's just a fear. I have a fear, but I am not the fear. I am not the fear. Third practice then is to share your gifts with the world as service. Sharing your gifts with the world as service. And this is not about being paid or not being paid. You can be of service in your job, your paid job. You can be of service and be well compensated for it. Okay. So our wonderful musicians, and I know Dalton over there and Judy here, and I'm seeing Linda Aldrich over in the choir and Marlene, share their gifts. And Dick and Nadine over there. We have wonderful people who share their musical gifts with us, right? And they just share it out of love. Okay. And I can also be well paid for it, by the way. But I'm not doing it to be well paid. I'm sharing my gifts. And what I know is the universe compensates as I share my gifts. It resources me in being able to share those gifts more fully. And so I share my gifts with the world with a consciousness of, am I serving from love? And I sit in that question. So I invite you this week to play with that with me if you're willing to. Behold the world with love, notice and release any judgments that I have about the world and myself, and finally to share my gifts with the world as service. Are you willing to play with that with me this week? Great. I know we can shift the consciousness of the world because again, we're connected with everything. We throw a pebble into the pond and we don't know where those ripples go out to. So I invite you to play with that. I want to close with a little short reading from Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker's book, 365 Days of Richer Living. Great book. It's a book of daily meditations. This is one of the things that both Cynthia and I do as a daily spiritual practice is doing the readings and the affirmations from this. It's available in the bookstore. Might even be on sale. Since the only life you can have is the life of the Spirit within you, you need but permit its radiance to flow through your thought into self-expression. You are surrounded by a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. You are immersed in and saturated with the vital essence of life. Its presence permeates everything, binding all together in one complete whole. And say, because my whole being is the life of God in me, I have nothing to fear. Let's do this together. Because my whole being is the life of God in me, I have nothing to fear. Everyone I meet is part of the same wholeness in which I live. Every person I meet is a center of the great unity of life. It is this center of life that I meet in all persons. In this unity in and through all that I respond to, that actually should have been, it is this unity in and through all that I respond to. Sorry about that. I cannot wish anyone harm, nor does anyone desire to harm me. I cannot wish anyone harm, nor does anyone desire to harm me. Through my consciousness of love, which is the very essence of goodness, I transform any apparent imperfection into the perfect idea of true being. I invite us to play with that this week. We see the God in each other, even if the other person isn't aware of it. We see the God within each other. And we start to deal with that. One of the things I've done when I've been in arguments with people is if I catch myself, is I shift out and I start to just inside myself say, I see the God in you. And I love the God in you. I see the God in you and I love the God in you. And I swear arguments stop. They just, all of a sudden, they just dissolve when I start to do that. And I've also had other people do it to me when I've forgotten. Okay? And it just dissolves. So if you can see the unity within each other, if you can see the God within each other, it's that Hindu namaste that we represent with each other. You'll transform your life. Let's pray. So there is only one. There is only that one life. There is only that one love. There is only that one presence. Beauty, life, intelligence, love, power. That is all that there is. And I and you and all of us are one of that right now. There's nothing we have to do to become one of it. We are it. Whether we remember it or forget it, we are it right now. Everything and everyone around us is one of it right here, right now. And so I speak my word that we see past the veil of the stories. We see past the veil, the illusion of the lists and the should-bes, and see the truth of each and every person, the ones we love and the ones we don't love so much, and the ones that really challenge us to see. Can we see? We say, yes, I'm up to the challenge of even seeing God in that person and in that situation. Because I know that the infinite love is so powerful that it can dissolve whatever imperfection there may be, whatever misalignment with Spirit there may be. And so I am the place, we are the place, grounded in that awareness, grounded in love for ourselves, that we allow ourselves to love into this world and allow this love to transform this world. And so for each of us who is practicing this love, each of us who is standing in this, however often, however well we can, recognizing that we can forget and come back and forget and come back, no matter how many times we forget and get derailed, we can always come back to this place. And knowing that every time we come back, it shifts. It shifts us. It shifts this world. It opens up the truth of Spirit, the truth of love, beauty, intelligence. And so I'm grateful that we get to play in this. I'm grateful that we get to wake up and remember this truth. And so I release this word in that gratitude to a law that moves it into form and expression and experience in our lives here and now, because that is the nature of what we call the law, that process of creation does. We say yes to it, and we affirm it as so by simply saying together, and so it is. Thank you. Bless you.